Okay, did anybody actually inform Goku that he wasn't gonna be the hero in this one? If they didn't, well, too bad. I actually like the way that this went. I really liked the direction that this movie went. So today we're gonna be covering Dragon Ball Super Hero. This newest addition in the Dragon Ball movie saga. There's a lot to cover, so let's actually just get to it. I'm gonna give my opinion on whether or not I think it was bad, and by my reaction, obviously you can pretty much tell that I do think it was good. But how good does the plot follow? Are there any inconsistencies? What is the plot overall? Who is the new enemy for us to watch the Z fighters defeat? So let's get into this Dragon Ball Super Heroes. All right, so the the gist of this entire story is the Red Ribbon Army. We all know them. We're very familiar with them. We've seen them in the Dragon Ball saga. We've seen them in the Dragon Ball series. Pardon me, and we've even seen them in Dragon Ball Z. They continually make a reprisal of their business in order to take down Goku. Now, although the Red Ribbon Army is back, it is not headed up by the same individuals it was headed up by. In this case, it's being led by an individual by the name of Magenta, and the characters in this that you need to know are in this are Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, Goten, Dr. Hito. We'll talk more about him. Android 18, Magenta, Pan, Whis and Beerus, Goku, Vegeta, and Broly, specifically in that order for a reason. Bulma, and of course these new individuals, Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. Now, in saying all of this, not everyone gets as much screen time as the others. This story mainly focuses on Magenta, Dr. Hito, Gohan and Piccolo, Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. That's about it. I'm not including the enemy in this because we'll talk more about him as well, right? But that is the main characters that we're gonna focus on. Oh, and of course, Pan, Gohan's little daughter. Now, in stating all of that, we know that the Red Ribbon Army is back. However, though, this individual Magenta, he's the new leader of the Red Ribbon Army, but they're not going under the name of the Red Ribbon Army. Now they're called Red Pharmaceuticals. Obviously, it's a cover company, right? For their real intentions. He's running a pharmaceutical company as sort of cover for what he actually plans on doing, which is taking over the world. Almost felt like a brain when I said that. Try to take over the world. But so Magenta, he recruits an individual by the name of Dr. Hito, who is the grandson of, take a guess, Dr. Hito, Dr. Gero. Exactly. He requests the help of Dr. Hito to help fight the Z fighters. Why? Because he has a beef with the Z fighters. He has a quarrel with them, right? However, though, after some negotiation on pay and whatnot, and Dr. Hito just coming out of jail, he entices him by promising him, I think it was like $300 million, and then he promises him like $100 billion, no, $1 billion per android. So he builds two specific androids, excluding one. So he goes the route of Dr. Gero, actually, right? The whole trope of building two and then building one organic android. In this case, the two androids that he builds, their names are Gamma 1 and of course Gamma 2. Those are the ones that we see in the posters. That one is covered in red, yellow and red, and then the other one is colored blue, right? Those are the androids that he develops. So these androids, they're now set to go and attack the Z fighters, and they start off with my boy, one of my favorite characters in Dragon Ball, Piccolo. Gamma 2 attacks Piccolo and they have a little one-on-one fight. It doesn't last very long. Piccolo holds his own for the most part, but Gamma 2 releases a blast at Piccolo and believes that he's dead without checking the body. He doesn't do a double tap. Go figure, right? Piccolo manages to actually infiltrate the Red Ribbon Army's base, and in doing so, he learns their plans. Some of their plans are to get at the Z fighters, and one of them that they're actually going to get at is Gohan. Why? Because Gohan is still recorded as being one of the strongest fighters that has ever come about, and they plan on doing this by kidnapping Gohan's little daughter, Pan. In doing so, Piccolo actually advocates for Piccolo in disguise. Sorry, Piccolo infiltrates and he takes down a soldier, and he's in disguise, and he advocates for doing this. Why? Because he'd be able to cover Pan. Piccolo is having a little situation though. Now, Piccolo's situation with Gohan, or his beef with Gohan, is that he believes that Gohan has gone soft. Gohan's not training. Gohan's not practicing his moves. Gohan's not practicing just in case the Earth is ever under attack, and Goku and Vegeta are not present to take down whatever enemy comes about. This actually is what takes place. So Piccolo, knowing that Gohan, although he hasn't been training, if Gohan's anger ever tempers to such a point, then he would unleash his powers from within, and that's what he wants to remind him of. So this is why Piccolo advocates for Pan being kidnapped while in disguise as a soldier. Why? Because he knows that if Gohan recognizes that his daughter is kidnapped, what is he gonna do? He's gonna lose his stuff. Like, what Gohan normally does. Gohan does Gohan things, and Gohan things are losing your patience and going crazy, right? Now, Piccolo's not crazy though, right? Although they are under attack from, Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, and for the most part they should be able to take these guys down with some good effort, especially with the other Z fighters, if they were to really call them. He still does make a way into trying to contact Goku and Vegeta via Whis, because they're still training with Whis. I love the fight between Goku and Vegeta. They didn't go Super Saiyan 1, they didn't go Super Saiyan Blue, nothing along those lines. It was a very base fight, but the whole point of the fight between the two of them was to describe to Broly, or to show Broly, what a sparring match looks like without having to go completely berserk, which I wish that we had seen Broly fight just a little bit in this, but I understand why they didn't. If he gets too into it, then he tends to just go crazy, and that's obviously when either Beerus or Whis would have to step in, because he sees everyone as an enemy at that point, and they'd be losing a good fighter, namely Broly, because Beerus or Whis probably wouldn't have very much patience for that. Whis, I think, would, because Whis would be able to take him down probably just like that, and Beerus seems a little bit more of the short-tempered type, right? But Piccolo does try to contact Goku and Vegeta via Whis. However, though, because they were having some dessert, a cup fell on top of Whis's staff, and the communication factors did not go through. It's unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. So without the help of Goku and Vegeta, they have to figure out how to take down the Red Ribbon Army on their own. Gohan, of course, is approached by one of the Red Ribbon Army's soldiers, with Piccolo as well. And when he learns that his daughter has been kidnapped, you see Gohan begin the phases of powering up. So Piccolo then is happy, because now he knows that he's starting to unlock his powers, right? Now is the time that he can finally reveal himself to say that, it was just me. There's nothing to worry about. Pan is fine. However though, Piccolo does tend to instigate a lot. Piccolo is he's a good teacher. He's an interesting one. Piccolo is a very interesting teacher. He's the type that would dash you into the jungle with a bunch of lions until you survive over the night while watching over you. He won't let anything happen to you, but he will save you at like the last minute. He's a good teacher, but damn, man, can he push you to the end. So let's continue. The Red Ribbon Army, they kidnap Pan. Piccolo allows this. He's in disguise. Gohan unleashes his powers. Not all of them. It's important to say, not all of them, because something happens in this movie that I was not expecting, that kind of took me aback. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, they begin to fight, and they begin to fight Piccolo, but as they're fighting, they're still having some quarrels among themselves, namely in that they're recognizing that the Z fighters might not be as bad as what was previously described. So the fight starts to kind of slow down and change pace once they recognize that these guys actually don't seem like bad guys. Like, we know what bad guys are, and these guys don't really seem like that category. They seem like they're warriors, yes, but their motives don't seem ingenuine. And this is something that they pick up on in the middle of the fight, and slowly you start to see that the fight starts to temper itself down. It starts to calm down, right? Now, at some point, they do reach an understanding. Even Dr. Hido reaches an understanding to say that, hey, you know what you told me about, maybe these guys aren't that bad, actually, right? So, therefore, why don't we just find another way to go about doing this? Why don't we just find another way to go about finishing off this match, or altogether? Why don't we just stop? Let's just stop. In him saying that, though, it is important to know that Dr. Hido built two androids, Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, but he built one organic one. This is what takes us now to the main enemy of this story that we learned earlier was Cell Max. In Magenta recognizing that Dr. Gero's greatest creation was not the androids per se, but it actually was Cell, I think it was, I'm trying to remember what level of Cell it was, right? But his ultimate creation, of course, was Perfect Cell. We saw this in the Cell saga, right? That he was the ultimate android. I'm not too sure if Android 13 might have a few things to say about that, but nonetheless, though, Cell is referred to as the perfect creation created by Dr. Gero. So he wants to replicate that, and in him doing that, he creates a bio form of Cell referred to as Cell Max. Now, Cell Max is the epitome of the big, dumb, rampaging monster, right? He doesn't talk. He's nothing, like absolutely nothing like Perfect Cell. Perfect Cell was suave, he was smooth, he was calculated, he was cold, he was cunning, right? He was very very snarky, even witty, right? He would take shots at you, make fun of you, and then take more shots at you and let you know how perfect he is, right? He was that type. This is what led to the tournament. He wanted challengers to challenge his power, knowing that he had no abilities to regenerate his health, right? He had abilities to regenerate his abilities or his limbs, but his health would wane. But that's how confident he was in his own abilities, knowing that no one was able to take him on. Gohan had something to say about that, and Gohan will have something to say about this as well. But this Cell Max creature, when it's released in such a form that Magenta, recognizing that the battle has stopped with Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, then seeks to release Cell Max. Dr. Hido, because he's had a change of heart with the Z Fighter in regards to the Z Fighters, he now wants to stop Magenta from releasing Cell Max. However, Magenta shoots him a couple times, actually, like not just one shot. He shot him once, fell to the floor, and then shot him again and again and again and again, thinking that he was dead. However, somehow Dr. Hido survives. It's because he had made some modifications to his skin in that it was impenetrable. Pretty cool ability. It allowed him to survive. No quarrels about it. Hey, you know what? He's a scientist. At this point, this is not where my suspension of disbelief is gonna stop. Right? He created Cell Max, and he created 2 androids that are able to fight on such a level. Why would I think that this is beyond him and his abilities? Right? But when they release Cell Max, prior to this, we had learned of of the first transformation in this show, right? Until then, we had seen, Super Saiyan. We had seen Gohan's ultimate form, Super Saiyan Ultimate. But prior to that, though, the first transformation that we see is not from a Saiyan. It was actually Piccolo. It was about time. It was so about time. I was wondering on what level Piccolo was going to get this upgrade, because he had approached Dende. He had approached Dende on inquiring on how he can get his powers unlocked, thinking that Dende might be able to do the thing that Guru had done for, Dende. He had done it for Nail, he had done it for Krillin, and he had done it for Gohan. In the Frieza saga, he had unleashed all of their powers. So Piccolo, thinking that Dende might be able to do the same thing for him, he had approached Dende, but Dende was not able to. This is something that takes, hundreds and maybe thousands of years of training to do, right? In order to do such a feat. And with a feat like that, I could see why, right? I would advocate that if Dende were to ever learn that ability, do that for Goku and Vegeta next time. However, he does have one solution. Instead of Dende performing that feat, why not Piccolo just ask Shenlong to unleash his powers? They gather up the Dragon Balls. Piccolo makes his wish, which is to unleash his powers, and Bulma. I'm not going to spoil this, but Bulma makes a very oolong type wish. She makes a very oolong type wish. You go figure that one out by yourself, right? The one thing I was thinking of was, in the time that they were wishing all of that, they could have wished for Piccolo to unlock his powers. I'm very glad they did that. But on the second wish, why not wish Goku and Vegeta back? I thought that was something that I might have just caught, but the show does actually mention that. Piccolo mentions that to her after, when the wishes are all done. He says to her, why didn't you just wish Goku and Vegeta back? We could have, we would have had some crazy help with the 2 of them here. But nonetheless, he's got to fight this battle on his own. Well, with Gohan and, the remainder, right? So, Piccolo then sets out his transformation. Piccolo's transformation, absolutely crazy. He hulks up. He reminds me of Lord Slug, even in the previous Dragon Ball movie. He reminds me of Lord Slug with his strength and his abilities. Piccolo is just wild, right? I really love this transformation. His body becomes, instead of green, it goes orange. His strength is amplified to a next level. Taking into consideration, Ultimate Gohan was struggling against Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, that Piccolo was then able to tank both of them. Like, they stood no chance against Piccolo in this form. So it really does let me know Piccolo got a huge upgrade that is on the same level as Gohan's form, if not more. Right now, in saying that, the release of Cell Max is a crazy one. Piccolo's form can't really take it. This is when all the other fighters show up. Gohan does transform. He receives a sensu bean, although he's drained. The other Z fighters show up. They begin fighting. Goten and Trunks, they show up. They begin fighting. They try to transform. They mess up the transformation by a finger slipping. They turn into fat Gotenks. Krillin Krillin shows up, Android 18 shows up, Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, everyone is fighting against Cell Max, but they're all being worn out. Why? Because he's just a hulking monster who knows no better. He's just attacking and he's just rampaging this entire city. All that said though, he's not indestructible. In order to defeat him, it takes you crushing the top of his head. If you crush the point in his head, if you crush that point in his head, then he will be able to be defeated. Piccolo's new form is still no chance for this form of Cell. However, that is not the only transformation. We've seen Gotenks transform into we've seen Trunks and Goten transform into Gotenks. We've seen Piccolo transform into the new form referred to as Orange Piccolo. The last transformation that I think everyone is going to get excited for, and something that they've confirmed the transformation of Super Saiyan White. This was always something that, people joked about, speculated on when it came down to Super Saiyan transformations. If you check on Google, there's about 1,000,001 drawings, and there has been even since the 90s, since the whole concept of Super Saiyan was a thing and the internet was more prevalent. There have been drawings of Super Saiyan White, right? It was always something that we all speculated on, and the closest thing we ever came to that was Ultra Instinct Goku. This time, it's not. It almost seems like Ultra Instinct, but I don't know if this is a level. This is the problem with power scaling. I don't know if this is a level underneath Ultra Instinct, on par with, or above. I have no idea. All I know is I'm excited to see how this flushes itself out. Why? Because this transformation reminded me so much of when Gohan transformed for the very first time into Super Saiyan 2. He did it right. He looks the same. He looks damn near the exact same as he did when he was Super Saiyan 2. He's a little taller now. His body is just as slender. I like this build, right? But his speed is crazy and his strength is damn near untouchable. Gohan and Piccolo are the saviors of this day. Gohan and Piccolo then went about defeating Cell Max, and I like the way they did this, and I love the transformation, and I love the way that the story played out. There was a lot to this story. One of the things honestly that I liked about this was the art style. I really love the art style. It's a different tone from all of the other movies, even down to Resurrection of F, even down to the most recent Broly movie. The art style in this, it borders on a level of 3D and 2D that is just absolutely crazy, right? The main characters in this, I appreciated the fact that they didn't just go with the typical Goku and Vegeta. Vegeta comes in, or Goku's fighting first, then Vegeta comes in and he becomes the proverbial punching bag, and then everyone else comes in, they're all the punching bag, and then Goku has to reach a new level and saves the day. They didn't go that route. They went with everyone else. They went with all of the other quote-unquote side characters. They gave everyone else some time to shine, and I like that. I love that. I love that whole concept of watching another superhero actually get the win for this one. And this time, I can't say that it was just Gohan, even though Gohan did deliver the finishing blow. It was still Piccolo had a lot to do with this. Even Gotenks had a lot to do with this. In the headbutt that he did, right? At one point, they were knocking Gotenks around, and then they knocked him down so that he can deliver a massive blow to Cell's head. Now, the fight sequences in this, smooth, absolutely smooth. The camera work, a thing to be envied. If this has raised the level for Dragon Ball movies, the way that they did it before, and you saw this with the Broly movie. If you watch the Broly movie, the camera work is just beautiful. the way that they go underneath the fighters to the sides and then above them as they're fighting, and then in front of them, and then they completely switch and give you a completely different angle. They carry that over to this movie, but you do get that sense that there's a lot of 3D thrown into this, right? Another thing was the pacing of this movie. It didn't just go directly into fighting. And even when it did go into fighting, they would backtrack and then go into building on the story, right? They'd focus on one character and then they'd focus on another character, really giving the characters that mattered in this some time to shine, minus Goku and Vegeta. You see Goku and Vegeta during their fight and before their fight as they're addressing Broly and getting a little frustrated with him, even because he's struggling to control his powers. It's Broly, right? But the pacing of this, it's great. I absolutely liked it, right? The upgrades and the transformations, new transformations, always welcome them, right? I will always welcome them. The final boss fight, it was pretty good. I think it was well done. I like the fact that after seeing the near death of Piccolo, Gohan finally has that red line cross against his face again, the same way that he did when he saw the death of Android 16 in the same way, right? He loses himself and he recognizes that he has to transform and become strong enough to defeat his foe. Same concept. Cell pushed Gohan too far. You would think that he would learn his lesson from back in the day, but again, this is just a mindless and brainless rampaging Cell. Now, although I like the enemy, that is actually one of the things that I didn't like. It reminded me a lot of Bio Broly, right? Just a mindless beast. There was no cunning to Cell. There was no swiftness to Cell. There was no suave. There was no imitation. There was no recognizing that he is the strongest and therefore is rather cunning. Cell Max is just all brawn, no brains. I mean, he's the complete opposite of what the prior Cell was. Prior Cell was smooth. This Cell is just bronzy. I mean, he's just about power. Doesn't talk. All he does is just scream, which is good for a monster movie. But if they were gonna do that, why not just create a new big bad? Why have it become Cell? I know that, you know, Dr. Hito wanted to continue on his grandfather's work in making Cell, but in making Cell, you would think that you would make Cell the way we recognize Cell to be, perfect Cell. That was the perfection of what an enemy is like, right? Gotenks, I think Gotenks was underused in this. And at some points he can just come off as a little irritating. I get the trope of, you know, fat Gotenks doing his thing, but you know, it did come off as a little tedious after a while, right? The unnecessary number of useless fighters was another thing that I really paid attention to. There, you know, it kind of just seemed like everyone was throwing themselves into the fight just for the heck of it. It reminded me of when Gohan and Cell had their final little showdown and they were having their beam match, and everyone else just kept on throwing themselves into it, although they were all irrelevant, right? It was just a bunch of fighters throwing themselves into the fight for the heck of it, right? And although, you know, we see that to some degree they can provide a level of distraction, they all came off as, for the most part, useless unless your name was Gamma 1, Gamma 2, Gohan, or Piccolo, right? With stating Gohan, though, this is another thing that I think is going to cause a problem. Power scaling. I think I'm done with power scaling. When it comes to Dragon Ball, I'm finished with trying to understand how powers work in this. I don't think I can. I don't think I get it. I don't think I want to get it. I don't know how strong Cell was. I don't know how strong Piccolo just became. I don't know how strong Gohan just became in comparison to someone like Goku, Broly. If someone can explain that to me, who's, you know, on top versus who is, you know, not, I would greatly appreciate that. And then, of course, the side stories, something, of course, I like those. The lack of Beerus. Beerus is a little girl a little lady that he likes as well. You know. Overall though, if I were to give this a rating, in me stating that I really like this movie, I can't even front. I really did enjoy this movie. I've seen it up to about 4 times now, right? And every single time something else stands out to me. I really did enjoy Dragon Ball movies, but this was one that seriously stood out to me. And giving this a rating, I would probably give this an 8.5 out of 10. A solid 8.5 out of 10. And the only thing that is keeping me from giving this an actual 9 or a 10 out of 10 even, I don't think I can give it a 10 out of 10. To say that this is a perfect movie, it is not, right? But it is, in the scale of Dragon Ball movies, this is probably top 3 for me. This has to be right up there with all the others. I would give this a solid 8.5 out of 10, and the reason why I can't give it a higher score is because of Cell Max. I liked Cell Max in his abilities. However, though, I don't like the idea of a big hulking monster just rampaging for the sake of rampaging. We've seen that trope. We've seen how that works out. I don't think it's a good concept. I prefer monsters or enemies that are more swift and suave, much like Perfect Cell. When you run into an enemy like that's calm in the face of your power up, you know that there's something to be worried about. In this case, when they powered up, I got the idea that maybe one of them could actually take him down if they just powered up more than he did. Right? It takes more than just powering up to take down someone like Perfect Cell. If you don't believe me, look at Trunks. Look at what happened with Trunks and Vegeta. They required more skill than just powering up your muscles for the sake of powering up than Cell Max did. Right? I love the way Gohan took him down. So that is my score. You guys, please let me know whether or not you agree, disagree, what it is that you think. Have you seen this movie yet? If you haven't, please go watch it. It is in the world of anime, this is definitely up there. They did a very good job on this movie. But let me know what you think. Do you think it was good? Do you think it was bad? Do you agree with my statements? All of what you can put in the comments, and I will see you guys for the next one. See ya.